A hunting rifle on it. Middle school student Jared Markham was back in a Logan, West Virginia classroom Monday with the same shirt on his back.
This kid's 14. I think that's the story. How can you sound like that when you're 14?
I did the right thing, they're proud.
The 14-year-old was arrested Thursday. Charges have yet to be filed.
They gave me no paperwork. All they said to my mother was not to bring me back to school the next day.
Markham's attorney says the teen was exercising his right to free speech. He says the school maintains his client was disruptive. Pam Huso, Fox News Radio.
All right, so where's the T-shirt? You get into the First Amendment rights. You hear this guy speak. It's crazy. Here's how low his voice is. It's just nuts.
State charges have yet to be filed.
They gave me no paperwork. All they said to my mother was not to bring me back to school the next day.
All right, Doug Uloff has joined me, legal strategist, legal expert. You worked on First Amendment cases. You can wear a T-shirt to school, right? It can say stuff like this.
I believe so, yes.
Except, as much as I support the Second Amendment, right, keep bear arms, I understand the sensitivity here. I do. Just like Nike. Do you hear about the Nike T-shirt? This is nuts. Last week, Nike released a T-shirt that had Boston Massacre on it and had blood spatters on it. I mean, well, what are they thinking? So I can understand that's probably not a great T-shirt to wear at school in Boston right now. So I get it. So what's going to happen here, Doug?
At the present time, the young man is two criminal charges against him for obstruction and disrupting the educational process. It's not clear whether those are necessarily because of his wearing the shirt. The wearing of the shirt is the sequence of events was set into motion by the shirt, but it appears that the arrest arose from the confrontation with the teacher, which took place at lunch after the boy had already worn the shirt for the morning class.
So we don't know exactly what went on with that, because that certainly could have been inappropriate. We don't know. Because you listen to this guy, I mean, you hear his voice.
No paperwork.
Sounds like he's 6'11". I mean, he's 14 years old, Doug. What the heck?
Indeed, he does have a deep voice.
He does. All right, so if you wear a T-shirt and has NRA on it and a rifle, okay. And for them to say, you know, disruption, all these other things, there's more to these stories a lot than we know. It's a he said, she said kind of a thing, correct?
At this point, that's what we know. I mean, apparently the young man has referenced a video, so I don't know if he's referring to a video that friends may have taken on a cell phone or whether this having taken place in the school cafeteria. There's a camera monitoring the cafeteria, so apparently at least the boy thinks that there's a video, and the police have been somewhat closed-mouthed about what exactly formed the basis for the charge.
All right. It's you know, on the surface, it sounds like one big overreaction. You get this stuff happens from time to time, and then you start grabbing the Constitution, then you get the parents involved, then you get the ACLU involved, you get everybody involved, and all of a sudden it's just one big mess. And it's just like, okay, guys, let's all take a breath here. Let's all just back off just a smidge on this. And you know, let's just understand that, yes, in schools there's going to be some sensitivity to guns and rifles right now. But, yes, you ought to be able to wear your shirt. But let's just not be we're just in everybody's face all the time. Just in your face.
And it may be that this very quickly fades because the charges are dismissed and the school kind of hopes that it goes away.
Well, I bet they do. I bet they do. They don't want this. You want the NRA knocking on your door? I don't think so. I don't think so. But again, I wouldn't wear the Boston Massacre shirt ever. And certainly, why would they rush out a production? Nike just really made a mistake. Had you heard about that, Doug? I just couldn't believe
that. Is not one that I have come across yet.
It's just crazy. Sometimes you just, I don't know. You got idea people that think, hey, this won't sell a bunch of really cool. It's crazy times we live in, Doug. We got to protect that First Amendment, though, that's for sure.
Well, and the school would have greater right to regulate the clothing that students are wearing than just might be the case in the public at large. But because this individual, it's not just a T-shirt with a logo of the NRA and a gun, it actually contains a statement, protect your right, which I think is clearly directed at his assertion of support for the Second Amendment. So I think although schools can regulate offensive conduct, and the Nike T-shirt you're speaking of would likely be more likely to rise to offensive conduct in this case, I think this particular shirt in the state of West Virginia is not going to reach that standard.
Could I wear T-shirts that said fire in the theater? I didn't say it. I just wore it on my T-shirt.
You're invoking the cases that describe that freedom of speech is a right to be protected, but it doesn't guarantee you the right to say fire in a crowded theater.
Right.
I think probably the T-shirt, since it would be dark and no one would see it, would be fine.
Okay. By the way, if we don't protect the First Amendment, just FYI, everybody, the whole country thing isn't going to work. If we don't have guys asking hard questions and really protecting that opportunity, because a lot of people have died for that. We've got to maintain that opportunity to be able to, within this reason, except for fire in a theater kind of thing, you got to be able to talk, Doug. You got to be able to talk.
The original Supreme Court decision that addressed this related to someone who was wearing armbands in protest of the Vietnam War, and clearly that was found to be offensive by some that were in the school at the time, but the Supreme Court came down with the decision and said because of the level of offense, that's not a basis for preventing the speech.
Yeah, right.
That the First Amendment is something that's important, and that's part of being a student is to learn that that's important.
Yeah, no question. And we want to, people, protest your brains out. Go do what you want, but have the opportunity to at least say your stuff. You just can't necessarily affect me from the standpoint of physical harm and all that other stuff. Well, it's fascinating, Doug. I appreciate your time this morning. We'll see what happens with this kid. I'm sure everybody hopes it all calms down.
Well, thank you for having me.
Appreciate it. Doug Uloff is a First Amendment attorney in Dallas.